and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. So hello there everyone, and welcome to my New Year's video for 2019. This is a continuation video, of course, from the retrospective journey, the overview of the 2018, because this is what we do as conscious beings in awareness. So we all know that our seeding journey for the new year ahead was solstice, and during the solstice point, as I've shared with you, I have received a beautiful spirit message about the triggering of the new spiral. So it was like a new conscious activation. It's like a new offspring that's now ready to begin. I will show you later the drawing that I channeled at the end of the video, so stay tuned. But definitely this was the seeding point for a new year ahead that will physically be potently present on the March equinox point, which is the beginning of spring here in the Northern Hemisphere. But there's many different aspects that make this year very boastful in a way. It's like almost like I was hearing the words, the year begins with a bang. For me, this was true because right before midnight, I got my feminine bang, you know what that means. And for a woman, as you know, that means she's initiating new birth, especially for me as a seeder of life. I choose my timelines for this to occur at very important juncture points. So I knew when this occurred, I was like, what? You know, and again, it was a very intense physical experience for me. But I knew that this means that the new year is going to be very important, and that something I'm birthing energetically comes with contractions, that it's almost like they were pushing through new waves of energy through my body. And I've shared with you in the first part that a huge part of our being was being informed through the illumined way of the feminine essence of life. Then it moves through the heart, and the last stage is moving through the body. Most people are not there yet, but a lot of people are moving into being illumined through the heart, and this is what Spirit calls this year, the year of heart illumination. And when I was doing oracles, and you can see the layouts also, I made a yearly layout on my Patreon page. You can see that, it's a part of my monthly content there. It was a lot about this heart pulsating wisdom, and it's like a emanation and a full heart explosion. Everything was aligned with that. It was beautiful. I couldn't believe that narrative coming true. But this year truly brought forth a strong emanation. It's like seeding of the waves. For me, you know, I've explained to you my latest initiation was right before the new year, but it was actually a dying off of sorts. And every time I have that experience, it's like I feel a part of me dies, and it truly does. It does die, because right afterwards, like I'm very fast when I shift. It's like a day or two later, I feel like reborn. It's like that part of me is no longer there. So I move from feeling these distorted, dense frequencies, and when I engulf them with my presence of the earthly nature and I resurrect them, it's almost like it triggers a new birthing point. And that for me was the Sylvester's Eve, especially because sometimes I won't believe how my body is synced in with those processes. But when you observe yourself, the more you're aware and illuminate your body, the more your body will align with these celestial essences and the frequency that it can gather and harness from a specific alignment, and that it aligns with the body and what it's doing. So it's very wise. So even though in the moment you say like, why, what on New Year's Eve? Oh, I wouldn't want that. But I was so intuitive. I knew it was like, it was in a hibernation state for a week, and I felt like pent up energy, and I felt all bloated up, and I was like wanting to explode. But it was like waiting until the very last moment just before midnight, and I'm like, what, how is this possible? But I also knew it's going to happen that way. So it truly was true that the year began with a bang. But also on the 31st of December, Mars went into 0 degrees of Aries. So it was in that, what's it called, the cardinal point, the point of action. So basically we've received a push. That push will not yet be fully realized. Like I said, it's a transitional phase we're now in, but it was also very much beautifully in synchronicity with the geomagnetic storm that was occurring on 28th of December. It was a very strong one. I'm sure you felt it. For me, I was buzzing all over. I couldn't sleep for like 2 nights or 3, something like that. But a part of me was like really witnessing something, right? The first thing was, as I've shared with you, this whole year we were mastering how to work with life force to seed and anchor these cosmic ray activities. So in the New Year message I've channeled, I'll talk about this very soon. It was a lot about the nature of these cosmic rays and how they operate and how we work together in unison to bring about these needed changes, because the whole law of manifestation is changing on the planet due to those shifts. And we are part of what is being on the planet. We're the ones who are experiencing life on the planet. So we're planning it on a soul level, then we're also experiencing it here. And that's changing a lot. So in the channel message, there's a lot about how these waves are operating, and from the galactic perspective, how this is all orchestrated, and how our sun is now approaching this grand solar minimum, as the scientists are calling it, because it's also denoting its own life force withdrawal, because the sun also needs to withdraw life force. So spirit was inviting us to do the very same, because as you know, ascension is a very intense process for the body. So we've left off towards the end of the year, and when I've last started sharing my messages, with the whole new body and the illumined body template, and when you will feel yourself moving there, it's probably when you're going to start resonating with this material. If it's not yet your time, you will perhaps either not be resonating with it, or your understanding will somehow have difficulty with penetrating that. But it's beautifully aligned with all of us being points or gateways, and we're each doing our work. And for me, I had to do it very fast, because that's the nature of my chosen purpose. Because I'm not doing this ascension as just a personal journey like many are doing it, but it's a very much an expanded mission of how this ascension will unfold multidimensionally. So that's why a few years back I've received and I created this course called Multidimensional Ascension, because it presents ascension from a much more expanded perspective than we see it here on Earth as a personal ascension or ascension of the planet. So when the sun is doing this and it's entering its own life force withdrawal, it's actually allowing these cosmic rays to come through to penetrate and bring forth information of the other already impulsed or already ascended deities, if I can call it like that, of the ascended energies that are now informing our planet of many different variables of energy, how it can play out. Although on our planet, we get to experience it differently. So the unique experience, even if you're a galactic being like myself, is so, and it's true, on each planet it's different, and each solar system is a different process. It's so unique. So in spite of your numerous travels and journeys, and you witnessed ascension like how many times, right? It's like it's still new. There's elements of it that are new. So they were showing me the timeline, and I was even writing it here. Like for me, from 29 to 2009 and 2012 were my awakening years. Then 2012 to 2017 were my initiation years, and I had to pass a lot of initiations back then. And they were showing me from 2017 to 2019, which is now, was life force mastery years. And then we're showing me 2019 dash da 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 da. It was like telling me this is the level of the unknown, the new creation. And it's basically, it depends on a lot of us who are here as galactic soul beings. I shared with you in the previous video that I've channeled a mini audiobook called Galactic Beings and Missions, which explains this process from a much wider view, which maybe can bring you a lot of peace and understanding. So when you think in terms of ascension, like, oh, it's happening so locally, and you get so bogged up with the things happening, you get so bogged up that you can't see the bigger picture. And this is what it can help you with the maybe not so direct but also indirect understanding of this and your involvement with it. So this also, they're showing me, involves a lot of hermitage and total seclusion sometimes, you know. For me, that was in those life force master years. I felt it as such. And now this new unknown is almost like it's not something we get to decide. It's a part of our already consecutive actions, what we've already achieved, but it's also part of the greater divine directive that's meeting us along the way. So it's a very beautiful process. So for me, this initiation with Mars being in the 0 degrees of Aries exactly on the point of the Sylvesters or the New Year's Eve, and as well as, like I said, I've gotten my feminine initiation back then as the same way, shows us, right, this exact point of importance. So this does bring the alignment of what I've channeled before, that this passing in between the 2018 point and 2019 is the point of choice. We're not talking about the year in terms of 1 year ended, boo, okay, now we're in the new year. This is bigger than that. This is seeing energy in terms of cycles. This is moving into the spiral consciousness. We're going to talk more about this in the January update and the mini course I'm going to offer on Patreon, okay? So we're going to move through some of the alignments that are happening in January, but also through the whole year, okay? These are some of the astrological alignment, and I'm going to tell you what I feel this strongly indicates for us. So in December 21st, we had Jupiter conjunction Saturn. This is very important. But then now we also have, every year we have on the New Year's, we also have our Sun conjunction Saturn, which means that there's a sense of responsibility, and at that time you receive an impulse, because Saturn for me is the way we're responsible with ourselves, the mission we carry out, which means you will get new directions and directives, and this is exactly what's been occurring within my own processing. I'm going to share with you at the end all of the newness that's going to come through and things that, you know, are going to change, and how spirit guides me into that process. But what's also important is that this new year begins with a series of eclipses. You probably know that already, those of you who follow me. So January 5th, this is this week, we have solar eclipse in Capricorn. Messages will also be on my Patreon about these juncture points. We have January 13, Jupiter square Neptune. January 21st, total lunar eclipse in Leo. That's going to be the second eclipse. It was going to be a full moon one. And we're going to bring a lot of, it's going to bring that sense of completion. Like, now this package is now complete. This is what Spirit has shown me, whatever that is for you. And then we have January 31st, Saturn sextile Neptune. And I want to mention something, okay? Well, we have January 13, Jupiter square Neptune, and Jupiter square Neptune again in June 16 and September 21st. This is, square Neptune. Yeah, square Neptune. It's going to be very important passageway here, as well as the Uranus now, who was retrograde, moves back into Taurus. It's going to be very pivotal for us in how we carry forth, you know, how we carry this higher consciousness in a very physical, practical way. It's going to teach us to be pragmatic, but I feel also very sensitive, sensual, but sensible, not just, you know, to ourselves, also the way other people are, having more understanding. Okay, we have a lot of other things too. So we can read those out if you want, but I'm sure an astrologer would do much more good here. So I'm not going to do that. These are the main things that I've noticed, right? The Jupiter square Neptune, because Jupiter is a planet of expansion, and our Sagittarius, which is so important, right, sign that Jupiter is now in, is helping that expansion even more. So now with Jupiter being squared in Neptune, I feel that will be kind of like, again, offering this opportunity to meet that higher sense of love, equality, that compassion, but also bring it to a point of our expansion. And this whole year is all about how our body gets to feel ascension, how our body gets to not just be labeled for having ascension symptoms and not being good enough, being too skinny is a part of this process, losing our hair, losing our ability to sleep at night. It's going to be how our body responds to this more consciously. Okay, so this is what I'm feeling. Why this is important as well is because it brings us to a point where we are feeling more richly and deeply a sense that we want to be aligned with spiral consciousness. I've wrote down two important things. One is, you know, people always come with new predictions for the new year ahead, and everyone is bringing who will bring the best prediction. And my point here is that I don't do that. And you might be, you know, like disappointed. I'm not going to watch this video. She's just dribbling about awareness. And so, yeah, because that's all there is. In truth, no one can give you predictions. And even when I share these things that I share about, they're for a specific group of beings who's aligned with the resonance of this vibrational work. And they're doing the work of attunement and frequency refinement so they can feel these things that I'm talking about. But these are actually people who are doing the work. People who are not doing the work and they're not there, they're not feeling that. So they might say, well, what's she talking about? Of course. This is not about knowledge. This is about the actual experience part. So the body gets to feel. So why is there this question I wrote? Why no more answering questions, and why no more predictions? So we are in different parallel timelines, as you know. So whenever someone gives you a prediction, they're kind of like inviting you to align with their paradigm, with what they're feeling. So if they receive something for themselves, this is where they are. No one in the world, whatever they say, can read the records of all and what's going to happen this year. They're accessing like I've shared before, when you access certain information, you can read that information in terms of patterns that feel familiar to you, the patterns you've already processed, and even there. And that way, you can't linearly do the approximation in this way, which means when you are functioning within spiraling consciousness, every moment, every initiation is new. So every moment already brings an expansion from the previous moment. And that's where predictions don't work. And even those who do bring certain alignments, these are not predictions, these are alignments. And whether you align with them in the moment or not is up to you, your soul, how much work with the resonance and integration work you've already done, and what you're doing, and what you intend to do. So we're in different parallel timelines because of that. Because, like I said, reality is what we ascribe to, what you perceive as real. And you cannot perceive it if your awareness is not there. So your heart will have that impulse. We're all impulsed through the galactic core. But though we translate that impulse, makes the reality so different. And now the second thing, why there's no more answering questions, again, it's the same thing. We cannot answer someone's question directly because that question, the way the answer is structured, can be viewed from so many different angles. So even if someone asks me something and I give them an answer, maybe that's not an answer they're looking for, they can read at that level. So I can bring them the more expanded version. They're like, huh? You know, it's almost like, why even bother? So when we share from our heart, the heart is the higher emitting frequency that brings the resonance that everyone will take their own part best. They can apply with best and best way at the highest potential in that moment. So that's why when I showed you in the previous video how much now is all about the heart transmission, and the cards I've received when I did the yearly reading was all about this higher heart, almost like an explosion, an eruption of love. And this eruption of love now brings the information in new ways. So this year, what I feel, so that's what I've underlined this Jupiter square Neptune, because I think this is where the magic is happening, as well as Uranus moving into Taurus. Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus is the way things function on your planet. From a level of values, love. It's like Venus is the birthing point for Earth. It's like a lot of life and life forms was translated from the consciousness of Venus when it experienced its ascended form. So the life being shared or offered here. And Venus has, as you know, this special geometry she makes, and that geometry is the geometry of light. So every time she creates a pattern anew, and she seals off that pattern, we go through immense initiation. So when Venus was retrograde at the end of last year, we've all experienced like a major turnover point. It was a very important one, especially because it was mostly in Scorpio, as you well know. So now we're seeing that life is not something you can predict or put in a pattern. Someone reads your records. I've talked about this in the previous video. This year is more about becoming illumined through the heart. So we've been informing ourselves, and let's say the light body is becoming more illumined. Now it's time for the heart to feel more of that, to feel more compassion at the illumined level, because compassion also has many different levels of vibration, attunement. So what someone would say, that's compassion, for me is not necessarily compassion to someone, okay? I've shared with you in the first video what someone would say, oh, I'm practicing the law of free will. For someone else, that free will no longer exists at the level someone sees it, and it's more like a devotion to highest calling, to a greater group collective consciousness that already operates within the greater pool of love, that is in service to life already, doesn't have to do something to be of service, but is the essence of service to life itself. So you see the difference? Okay, so the name Spirit gave me was the year of bright hopes and of heart illumination. So what does it mean, bright hopes, right? Let's now digest this a little bit further. So we have now this year the formula, when we add up the numbers together, of 12-3 universal year. I know a lot of people are saying that 3 is the number of Jupiter. I don't feel that so much, because when you look at the nature of astrology and the houses, Jupiter is more of a 9. You know, I have a 9 personal life path, and I have a lot of planets in Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter, and 9 rules my life in a big way. 9 is often seen in this decimal point, like measuring point from 0 to 10, right? And 10 becomes 1 again. For me, this is not a fully functioning system that numerology provides. It's a partial, and you can apply it. But I feel here Mayas, they had it more right. I'm going to share this more in the spiral consciousness video. So it's more of a 13th octave, which is a synthesis and then moving again and again. So there's a compilation of earth cycles and cosmic cycles and earth number essences or seals of energy and cosmic patterns. And you can read more about this in this book from my cosmic companions from Larkma. This is Pleiadian Earth Energy Astrology. Something I just browsed through it and read the first 2 chapters, but actually wasn't guided to study at all during the holiday season. So I'm going to be doing more of that in January. But a lot of this is already known to me. So in the back, you have this whole chart of also choosing your birth date and seeing what your energy falls to. This is very similar to Mayan astrology, except it's differently verbalized here. I believe it's presented a little differently. So when I found my own resonance here, where's my date? I'm old. My number here is 13 and then devoting. So 13 is the cosmic synthesizing energy here. When you read about it in the book, it's a synthesis number. I've always been to me that number. But for me, it's beautiful because I also have ascendant in 13 degrees of Sag, which is also avatar number. For me, it's like this bringing things, calling things back to their primary essence of unity. And then the energy of devoting is the earthly counterpart. And for me, this together is really describes my purpose beautifully, right? Because devotion is my favorite word. And when I've seen this, I'm like, oh my gosh, couldn't be more right. So I advise you to consider reading that book. It's from Pia Orlean, PhD, my friend, and Colin Baird Smith and Larkma, the Pleiadian group of mysteries of light who are of assistance. And I really resonate a lot because I'm very close home with this Pleiadian energy, so it's very similar. For me, like I said, this system of 13 is more correct, but in terms of the numbers that you can look up in your life path or your personal numbers, all of that, they do carry a lot of a similar association also with astrology. So you can consider 3 being the number of Jupiter because 3 is always like, it's like a triangle. And the triangle consciousness is the consciousness of life, right? 1 and 2, birthing the third energy creates a triangle. It's a principle of life-giving. So 3, in a way, is a principle of life-giving. So this year being a 3 universal year, birthed through the number energy of 12, in a way it is completion, can be seen in that way because Jupiter does expand, but it can also be seen simply as the energy of the creatrix. That's how I see it. The Divine Trinity, the Empress, is birthed through the Hangman. I've told you, this year is not all like, oh, let's rush, rush, rush. It's creativity through, it's almost like when you rest and you have that replenishing essence and you allow yourself to hang, which means you see things from a perspective of withdrawal and retreat as well, then the creation will be more potent because you are able to apply yourself more also through the unseen. There's a lot of the unseen we're not applying here on Earth, so we're not using a lot of energy at our disposal. We're using a lot of energy on the seen level, and we're recycling that, right? We're constantly recycling energy that's we're able to see. But there's a lot of non-yet harnessed energy that's coming from the mystic realms or the unseen realms that we can harness. So last year we had the 11 Gateway Mastery year, which was so challenging because of that, because you have to walk through all of these initiations of the 11 to walk on the other side, to walk through that bridge. And it did feel like a tunnel. The whole year I had this feeling of having tunnel vision. I'm like, where is it going to end? Where's the light at the end of the tunnel? The whole year was that tunnel. That's the message. So now with this 3, it's like birth. Birth is the opening point because 3 is the Trinity. But it's birthed through, like I said, taking withdrawal, taking things, it's like you have to plunge in to harness the energy of the unseen just as well. So 3 is also the energy of the Gemini, right? The 3rd house, the twins. Communication will be important. Triangle, like I've said, tantric awareness, because it is that Trinity is the tantric path. Life force mastery awareness still. We're still mastering how to harness those energies. People are saying it's the year of beginnings. It really depends. where do you begin? You begin every day, right? When there's a spiral consciousness awareness within you, every day you're unfolding your spiral. So let's say if someone disrupts you, right? You're like, you're like spinning like this. Someone will disrupt you because they're not yet embodying the spiral consciousness. Let's say they're linear and they want to do things in a linear way, and you feel it as a disruption. And our whole way of communicating, because this is the year we also get to communicate that, because we have been mastering that in 2018, this feminine principle of life giving, but walking through the tunnel of when will this illumination really bring us to a point of the heart just explodes and now it's time for new birth? Well, the new beginning is up to you, because it's, even though the whole year was a tunnel, it's like our point of exit, like the entry and the exit out of that energy, it's still up to your awareness, right? So it's all about cycles. There's many different cycles you can see, because we have personal cycles that exist within these greater cycles. And I believe they also read about it here in this book about the cycles. They also told me they're going to send me the calendar. There's a calendar that comes with this book with these different energy you can see, and you can apply yourself through different days, the energy of the day through those frequencies. I don't follow that much. I have to look at something and then decide what energy. I'm very much already attuned to that, but I feel it's a beautiful guiding navigational tool for people in the transition mode, because they're still so entrenched in this linear way. So I really say thumbs up. I think it's a beautiful creation, although I haven't read it yet. But we have to find our own cycles that exist within these greater cycles. Because when we hope for something, or we want prophecy or something to be given, or a date of ending, where does this end? Where does this begin? It's up to us, truly. This is what spiral consciousness is teaching us. And every day it truly marks a new beginning. There is no one set new beginning, right? Okay, so that's the thing. It's a creation of new life, but it's through your own mastering of the cycles that you are experiencing. And if you want assistance on that path, I advise you to start studying anything on the level of energy cycles through the law of 13, this Pleiadian energy system versus Earth energy system in astrology being united. So our new year, like I said, already began at solstice as a seeding point. And the 31st of 12 and the 1st of January, right, is numerological beginning. So it's like to back up the frequency pattern that is set in motion during the winter solstice, or the, moving into the spring equinox in Aries, is when the carryover of the yearly earthy energy pattern occurs. So it's into a new physical cycle that's being inscribed. So what we're still mastering here is, as you know, the surrendering of control, resistance to that, right? The mastery working with spirit fire. Just on the day of the New Year's, the eve, right? I was doing an oracle and I asked, what's most important today? I had 3 cards. One was fire, it was burning flames. The other one was like being that surfing the waves. And the third one was the master sitting under a tree and just being in their respite, right? Like the wisdom keeper. And I was actually shown how it's important to ride the waves of energy by grounding them, by unifying the aspects of fire and water, but not just through the elements, but volcano and tsunami, like in nature, we have now so many volcanoes erupting simultaneously. We have tsunamis, that's all connected. But in terms of energy, water meeting fire. My own experience is this when I can't sleep. I can't sleep when there's so much pent up energy in my body, and I have this immense fire which will explode if I don't tend to it. And I was recently shown that none of these techniques that we used to apply, when people say, I can't sleep, what we usually do is you try to force yourself to sleep, or you get up and distract yourself by doing something. In most cases, the third scenario, which is the most correct ones, we don't utilize, and this is doing the life force mastery work. The cultivating of the energy through very much conscious expansion. And for me, meditation and just aligning and visualizing doesn't work, because that's the mind level, which is important for you to get awareness about it. But for me, nothing at all, absolutely nothing will get the energy moving and really settle the energy unless I do the tantrika yoga and my dance. It doesn't happen. And it stays trapped in me like a lot of pent-up energy. In the first video, I've talked about the woman as the volcano and the giving birth frequency. This will be very important this year because of the 3 number. 3 is the creatrix, is the birth giver, the life giver. It's the creative energy and essence. And maybe that's why people associate it with Jupiter, because it's a creative energy, because we create because we're expanding, right? Every time we expand in something, we're creating. And when we're creating, we're expanding. But for me, if that doesn't get grounded, if I don't do the grounding work, the energy will get more and more explosive, which can work through us as the energy of fire that's not mastered. It's going to burn. It's the fire that burns. It's not the fire that transmutes, right? Translates energy and eventually transfigures the energy, which is what Ascension is when it's the descended Ascension. So that's we're still going to master that. How to work with sacred fire. And that's the reason why I believe my Tantrica Life Force Mastery, Cosmic Orgasm Mastery, and New Body Mastery, and of course, Dance for the Cosmic Human, these are all courses to work with your body. And then the next level, what we're also mastering is the Mastery of Lumen Creation. And this is my 13th Synthesis course. This was all prepared for now. Now is the time. I was doing the work the entire year. Now is the time to do it. Now this orgasmic mastery is a part of this, because through the orgasmic mastery, we're assisting our body to not keep this pent-up energy. And I'm not talking about the 3D release, that kind of level. I'm talking about the conscious cultivation of energy to move out of body and move in an expanded form and go back into your body, because in an expanded way, it will enrich your body. It will bring it light particles that it needs as nutrition, because the more you are a light body human, right, a human in a new illumined body template, the more you will need nutrition in this way, not just this food. A lot of times you might eat a lot of food, but you will only use more energy up because of trying to digest it. So it's not always going to work best when you're more in the new than you are in the old. So this is also very important. These are all courses that I already offer on my page. They're very much helping with this process. So how to do the energy translation and cultivation, and then the new illumined body activation and template for being. This is also my course. This is still going to be in continuation. Why? I want to read you this part here from my beautiful rose notebook. This is exactly what I wanted. I said this year I feel it's the year of the embodied rose. I kept saying this because last year everything for me was about the rose, and I got this necklace and the earrings because I just wanted to have it to remind me all the time. And I've actually ordered material to create a sacred rose and Mother Mary necklace in a heart shape. I just really felt called to do it, to seal the energy that way, because you know, sometimes I do devotional jewelry just when I'm guided. But it really felt like last year was the awakening of this, and it was here, it was illuminating our awareness, and now it's coming here and it's ready to illuminate the heart. So this is the year of the heart illumination. So now this, I want to read you this part I channeled when I did the overall theme of love and devotion like never before for this year. And the messages I got were worthiness, loving all that is, acceptance, and it was about the body because it was a naked woman lying there, and the 4th heart chakra of the green ray. So this is all about really feeling the process your body goes through, feeling nothing but gratitude, even when things from the earthly perspective feel like very crass and always the same and repetitive. There's a higher picture occurring, and that's also all in the spirit channel message for this year. But I want to read you this first. The body moves with ease. The body moves with grace. There is no more pressure. It is all ready for release, and finally there is peace. The body meets its reflection in the world, and it has a story to be told. As the love for the body grows, the illumined light becomes all, as it finally embraces the child within who was waiting to be heard. The heart shall lead the way as the mind subsides. A silent observer becomes. This is a love story in the making of how a human was born divine and now remembers, and so divine it becomes yet again. Ready, humbly, and with gentle care, the reborn spirit has a new name. What is written in the water no one has done before. A miracle manifests, and love is born of heaven here on earth. The one and all becomes this holy child in unison with earth, resurrected and reborn. The great light meets its manifestation as fully divine in this realm of time. The full acceptance of one becomes the gift of many. How strong the destiny of faith when carried into the realms of the unknown. What one believes becomes known, and so it shall eventually be the norm. When the heart is full and the hands set free, in the mirror one shall see, gazing, the illumined form as manifest destiny. All the visions and ideals, nothing is in vain, it all serves as the great plan unfolds. Look and behold, there's so much to see, even in the space that's empty. The heart will guide the map when it gets too dark to see or too bright to comprehend. The journey feels long, but beyond this, there is nothing that's too difficult. There is only love and only hope that turn into trust. Almighty joy, yes, I say. So I hope you enjoyed this little piece of heart feeling. So there's a very different way, even when I channel, when the heart speaks, it's more poetic, it's more like soft. And when the mind, that's also part of the divine mind, which is divine intelligence that brings us information with what we need to know. And when I channeled the divine message for this year, which was a spirit message, I couldn't believe so many pages came out. It ended up a rather long message, and it's available also on my Patreon page as a full audio, but also on my download page for those of you who don't want to be on Patreon as well, because I understand not everyone does. Mostly people, want to get things separately. But this message is so beautiful, and it contains a lot about the cosmic ray impact. Also talks about the event. I was very surprised because it talked about the event and the real interpretation at the multidimensional level with these shifting cosmic bleep moments, as Spirit called it, and how many times they go unnoticed because we're not sure that that's it, but it is. And how sometimes, how in truth it has to be perceived that way. Like sometimes we feel nothing's happening, but it's kind of masked, it's cloaked for a reason. It also talks about the galactic shift and beings who are of galactic purpose who are here at this time because of this happening, because there is a great change happening. Talks about again the body, the withdrawal of life force, the importance to move into the body and to get into these refiner states of consciousness. So it's a very long message. I think it's a really beautiful message. So I've channeled 3 very in-depth messages. One was the one at the end of the year, to really be informed through being in our form, in our body, so deeply with great presence, and to be with all simultaneously. Then I did the solstice message with the new spring off energy, like a new spin-off, right? And then the third one, which is the channel message for 2019, which is like also a deep message of what physical ascension is and what true devotees of ascension feel. You know, it talks about the difference between the ascension of the mind and how it gets envisioned in not in alignment within many people who are misled, and how ascension can only be what it is because it is what it is and it has its principles. And when you understand that you're right in the alignment with that and you're flowing with ease and grace because there is understanding there, it's not something you're imagining here with your mind, which is more a path of the artificial human, right? And it's not really something for me where I want to be. So it's very important for you also to feel where you are now in your personal year. We will also have a Chinese year of the pig. It does align with the Jupiter, right? So it is my Jupiter's return because it is in Sag. It's where my Jupiter is, and aligns with also coming back in my sign. So believe it or not, I'm a piggy in Chinese astrology. That's what I am. So count that in, right? What that means, I don't know. Maybe we'll find some interesting information about that as well, because it does all influence us in a way. And we can be prepared, not just for, ooh, it's going to be an intense year. But we can also be prepared for great things, because a lot of us are always, with all the intensity happening on the planet, we're always like on the lookout, right? What's happening next, right? It's like, okay, always going to be something bad, but it's not truly the case. We also have to be on the lookout for good things. So if you do that, I calculated my year this year is 9. It's the energy of mastery and wisdom. It's also my life path. So I'm back to my original start, back to the roots. It's also in a way completion, right? When we count it in the 10 digit system, sorry. So the last time I was in the 9 year was actually the years of my awakening. That was in 2010. Was my awakening years, right? So it's interesting how now there's a moving on from there and completing something very new. So I really hope you will tune into the channel spirit message. It's like I was counting the pages like 10 or something. It was like so much. It's like I was channeling for 10 hours, and that was exactly into New Year's Eve. And then we had that beautiful ceremony with letting go and calling in new frequencies. So I've explained a lot about this, and now I want to move into the last part. I want to talk about the three different worlds that now coexist, right? The old world, the transitory world, and the world of illumination. And I've explained in the first part why it is so important to do your inner work, to not just call yourself a name, a label, a title, whatever it is, it's not enough. Whatever you are, if you're not really a being of high respect, high reverence, full devotion, heart openness, centeredness, um, you're still not getting what you're here for, you know? And this time has so much opportunity for ascension. Um, Everyone can work with that so beautifully. It's not a time to miss it, right? So when we're misinformed, when our focus is being driven somewhere else, you know, like people talking about why is there so much focus on the trivial news and prophecies and predictions when people should really be with what's happening. You know, I found this beautiful channel on YouTube when there's independent scientists, people, researchers who have built their own machines, and they're monitoring things like where the poles of the planet are moving. And they're having the devices that are daily measuring this. And these people are like giving up of their own time and resources, just like I am. We're all doing it. And it's really time to support these creations because they're prospects of the new. Instead of getting so much distracted with even what we call spiritual. Okay, let's be real. Okay, so when I'm going to walk you through these three worlds, they coexist. They exist in parallel. And we tune into them through our awareness, as you know. And now, as I've said, 2019 marks this choice point. The soul, through the soul awareness, where you are, has chosen. But now, with our physical alignment, we're moving, and we're moving. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, but either way, it's going to be challenging. Every year actually gets more and more challenging, but when we work with preparedness, when we're working with being prepared, which means being aware, when we're aware, we're being prepared. It's like we're doing this conscious synthesis work so that we're not like in fear, always lurking, right? But we're always just simply observing. And this year, they're so stressing. My guides are stressing the importance of life force withdrawal. Doesn't mean you have to be a hermit and hide, no. But the way you connect to things, and this also came through the spirit channeled message part, is just be so attentive to how and what you give your energy to. Because ascension, when you really want it to occur, it's like you have to make room for it, because once you will, so much energy will be used for the internal alchemization of the body that you won't even know, and you won't have time for things you used to do before, not even interest. And when the interests are waning, they're going away, it's simply a sign that you're moving on to the next thing, okay, to next level. So in retrospective, we're going to talk about first the old world, and we already know that. In the old world, what we're still experiencing, so we can't call this prophecy. Anyone can talk about these things and they will tell you that's a prophecy. Well, it's a fact. You don't have to call yourself to be a prophet to do these things. Just look at the world, look at the energy signature, and when you are a highly empathic being, you're going to see. So everyone, I'm inviting you to become your own prophet, to, instead of work with prophecy what shall be, choose what you want it to be. Instead of going for a reading for someone else, choose to be with spirit alignment. And if you don't know how, I work with spirit to help you work, find your own mastery. That's how I work, because high beings of universal guidance system, we work with that mirroring, which is source mirroring. We don't work by doing things for you, reading things for you, and showcasing as we have these special abilities, which you do not. We want you to be that being for yourself. That's how masters work. Masters will always create other masters. They won't create followers. I don't want to have followers anyway. So let's go to the old. What are we witnessing? And this is not a prophecy. This is the continuation of the patterns that keep on playing out, because there's still people choosing to have that experience. So the old world, this dense world of separation, we experience a lot of artificial intelligence. The increase in artificial intelligence is peaking, as you know. We have increased so-called disasters. We have increased geoengineering of everything, not just the weather. As you know, the fires. There's also the design food, you know. I was recently researching this food that has cells from human fetuses, from aborted cells, right? Sorry, aborted humans. I don't know what to call aborted babies. Sorry, but it's literally like ugh, and they're calling it like flavor enhancers or whatever, right? But in truth, there's so much manipulation behind this. This is people don't understand why this is being done, but a lot of these agendas are to hide um, these cells, like it's like in a way that we would be digesting our own DNA, which you know this creates. It's not like what people just call it creates cannibalism. It's beyond that. It's a consciousness starts to eat itself up. It means it becomes artificial intelligence, because when you're life-giving consciousness, you don't need to eat a source that's based on life. You don't need to harness life from another source in that way, especially when it has the DNA. It's like eating your own DNA. This is very, very difficult topics, but it's happening. As you know, many things like that. It's artificially designed food and stories like people getting infected by going to supermarkets, right, buying salads, and it was the story of getting these diseases. Like, what are they spraying on this now? It's like, who can you trust, right? So when you are in this world of dense frequency and you can't tune in, really feel, ooh, that's not for me, oh no, 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 you know, like really be in that feeling, then these things will continue to happen. So we have increased chaos, also through seeking of information or flooding of information. That's a part of the old. Doubt, who's telling the truth, right? The various scenarios, competing stories are making it difficult to connect to the truth, even in the conspiracy theory circles. It's almost like, you know, people are talking about who's right and who's wrong instead of seeing that it's not the point. It's not the point who got it right or wrong in the first place. The point is you wake up and you do your own research. That was always the point. And so when these researchers people look up to and they make a fail somewhere, right? And they're like, oh, they're to blame. Oh, I never trusted them. Although someone, I don't know, maybe watched for 20 years and then their ego pride says, oh, I never trusted them anyway. It's like, wait a minute, go deeper, go beyond. We're always looking faults in people and situations and scenarios instead of seeing what are we really waking up to. So that's the part of the old world. There's always so many agendas competing with each other. And there's never enough research. You always want more. You want more until the point of exhaustion. This is not the balance. This is not the feminine wisdom we were kind of like getting trained and prepared for the entire 2018. Also, people taking things too seriously happens as well. Increased control, like the elite, right? They're in control of their own selves, so they're in control of control. That's funny, right? But they're controlling the plans they have set themselves up, and so they begin to control themselves, not just others. And this is when things begin to backslide, right? So it's the back door opening here. And it's like we're going to witness a lot of this coming now, okay? So the control of control getting out of hand. So the control of the control is getting out of control. I love that sentence. But yeah, I have this whole course, as you know, it's a free course, Mastery of Seership and Illumined Cognition. And it's time to move on now from that. So they were telling me, I'm not going to talk about these things anymore. The synthesis is there. It's all out. I'm not going to repeat it. Now it's up for people who do their own work on that level, okay? So it's time to synthesize all that was gained from playing this game of duality that's basically just a holographic simulation. And it's time for us to move on, and that's in the solstice message, create a new spin-off. It's time to leave that because a lot of people were putting all themselves there, all of their bodies even, to the point of exhaustion because they believe they need to serve the system. But why are you still serving the old system? This is the old way. So many are getting ready to exit this level of reality play and create a new spin-off reality, which was, like I said, in my solstice message. So from tyranny to heroism, right? This is about sharing information with others. That's now the second part. So when you are aware of this, right, there's a sense of participating with the collective shadow and then moving through our own shadow by playing out repetitive patterns and programming. That's still a part of the old world. Then we're going to talk about the second world, the world of transition journey. Here we beginning aware of, oh, wait a minute, am I recycling? Am I in repetition? And what is causing me to be in this state? Who is the so-called enslaver? Because in fact, even when you want to say it's the elite, the ruling system, the governments that are a part of that, even when you want to say that, you don't really want to say that in the illumined world, but we're going to get to there, okay? So the transition journey is now the vault of knowledge here was established, and it's sealed and ready for archiving phase. This again is also part of the message, those that are ready to move from that state into pure being. So like we do with documents, right? We then archive when something reaches its fulfillment. So the release of all prophecies also comes into play in this stage here. They were meant to get us outside linear thinking and informational processing through expectations, agendas, all of that. You know, we didn't get something to happen. Maybe causes you to ask yourself why. Eventually you go to the timelines and then eventually expand into a spiral and you realize, oh, that was to test me anyway. It was to show me that I was gullible enough to follow that and want those answers, but it didn't happen that way. Because when you're already, everything you're already participating with, you're already influencing it with your consciousness, right? The consciousness of the observing. When I observe this pen, the pen is already changing. So prophecy in that way, when enough people would read that prophecy, that what's written in it is already changing. So when you're a galactic being, it's almost like hilarious to you. When you hear even the words prophecy, it's like, oh, come on, you know? And then people would say, well, then why are certain things so true that were happening in these old days? It's because these were beings who came from, again, a wider vantage point that wrote those down because they knew the patterns. They have the far-sightedness. They have seership marks, what I was teaching in that free course. And because of that, they have the ability to see what hasn't yet been processed, what's in processing for so long, and what are the elements that are playing out. And when you can read information from the Akashic level of the library, not at the personal level of information with the different soul experiences, but you can read the timelines of many different experiments here. And that's on that level you can give prophecy, but it's not because you are now a special being, but because maybe you were chosen to become a part or a messenger to share this information, because it's also put there, it's placed there for an even greater awakening than what you think is an awakening to that prophecy, okay? It's just something that functions through very much the rate of predictability that you can read at that moment, and therefore it comes true. And sometimes it doesn't because there was a different light quotient that was gained, and the spin-off energy moves energy in a different way. Okay, so what's also part of the second transition world is the synthesis of all the karmic journeys. People are doing that, right? The Akashic entrance and learning to do it yourself. I talk about this in the retrospective video. Go watch that one. Always watch that one first. Always prepare first because you don't want to jump in the pool without seeing how's the water, how warm it is, how high it is. You know, is it even for you? Is it salty? Is it sweet? What it is? Is it even a pool? Are you outside? What is this? That's the point, right? So we're exiting a cyclical repetitive accessing of the self while in soul experience, right? So one example would be choosing very similar lives and circumstances out of familiarity with little room for expansion, progress, and evolution. A lot of souls have been doing that, and they were calling this evolution, but it was evolution with a very, very, very minimum span of reality. Becoming the conscious observer, that's a part of the second transition world. Becoming sovereign beings, no one rules over us, we are self-governed beings. Beginning to work with our life force mastery for soul liberation. Exiting toxic situations, circumstances, and relationships. Informing others of what's going on by sharing your own healing mastery journey. So a lot of us were going through that. We were sharing in a way through higher perspectives of life, the way we received through our galactic teams, mission teams, and spirit. Then recognizing the inner journey towards self-realization, you know that it's all up to you. Stop pointing the finger at me. Okay, up to you. Self-empowerment, not self-improvement though, by claiming and liberating our own shadow. So feeling, but no longer participating with the collective shadow. This is the second stage, okay? So now we're embracing communities and sharing with like-hearted, resonating individuals, right? So this is the need to connect, right? And then also to disconnect from what doesn't serve. There is a strong need for community in the transition journey. There's a sense of needing to reflect to one another, to mirror each other in what we're processing. Acting as an agent, mission agent, or energy mover here, the energy of change. Dismantling old and rigid structures that hold us down, the release of control on all levels. Because it is the path towards liberation of life force. So the transition journey is the hero's journey towards self cultivation within life force mastery. The beginning of opening up to the divine feminine creation of new life and opening to pure trust. Because I don't know where it was said before, but the hope was like a transition towards trust. When you say, I hope for this to happen, I hope this will be a better year. You know what? 2018 was very challenging, and even my channel spirit message opens up this way. It was a very challenging year indeed. And yet, it's not like now you want to wish for something to be different overnight. Now you have new resolutions. Well, it works fine for some. It's good. People want to improve. But the path of ascension is not a path of self-improvement. Again, it's a path of self-liberation where instead of improving aspects that you feel are faulty, because you still see through the eyes of separation instead of unity, you really what you want to do is you want to apply yourself on all levels. You want to break loose. You want to allow yourself to roar, to even get upset, to be angry, and see that point of no judgment and move with the energy. So instead of trying to be somewhere at a certain time, also what is being shifted here in the second transition phase is the way you see time in terms of what you do is instead of planning for things like I will do that, and then you're in that moment, it doesn't feel that much anymore, but because you said you're going to do it and you promised, and then you confuse that for devotion. That's not devotion. That's a fixed idea of how you apply yourself. But application of yourself through devotion is more fluid. That's the opening of this heart illumination, the illumined heart guidance. And this is where the new inner world of illumination comes in. And that's the third world. There's not a lot of people in it, but it exists. It's there. It's a world that now, especially in this year with the 3 birthing energy, we're helping to birth into motion more and more. And the more people master their life force, the more they're fueling this world to become a vital life essence instead of a something we just would say that's just artificial consciousness, and maybe it has a structure but it has no essence. So when essence also has a structure, but it's still an essence. But structure that's artificial does not have an essence. It's still structure, right? So we would say there's different beings, and they're non-sovereign beings, and they prey on other beings and prey on their life force, whatever their processes, and want to enslave them. They're still beings. They still have a structure, but they don't have this illumined essence that's expanding within them, that's pulsating. Because the unity aspect has been totally asleep. So this third world of illumination begins when you see that it's like the riding of that wave, which I've explained before. It's like being with the energy the way energy wants to be, felt. So instead of, when I gave you the example before, when the energy wave comes in and it's very intense, and instead of trying to get to sleep, it's like you're not surrendering to the moment of the energy. You're trying to get away from it by either, just wanting to get to sleep or wanting to do something else. Or either way, you're escaping. You're kind of like resisting the energy instead of being engulfed by the energy. So when the wave will totally engulf the volcano within you, that's the work with the sacred inner fire that we're still doing. And if you want assistance, it's all in my courses. So it begins with us really knowing that we have to be with energy. It's no more time of escaping it, right? And we all need more time for ourselves. We all want to do 1,000 things instead of doing little, doing it tactfully, gracefully, with ease, with poise, with dignity, with respect, by knowing what is of worth and value to us, what is the contribution to the world, and what is just excess energy that we're putting out because we either have an expectancy for ourselves or we feel expectations from others. But either way, it comes back to us having high standards. Okay, so the new world of inner illumination is not a world of high standards, but it's a high standard world that already is. So this is where the surrendering into the energy, into the moment, into being in that heart space that's illuminating, where that comes in. So this is the great surrendering and synthesis that's now complete. It's the release of all control. It's the heart that's illumined. The only need is to be and share love, however that may present itself, the dropping away of the need to heal, to serve, to strive for something, to better something, improve something, and only to be in the devotion to spirit and form, for that is already the highest degree of selflessness and spirit embodiment. So it's the intentional vibrational living. One example is the decrease, gradual decrease for quantities of food intake. I've explained this before, right? We now feel more prone to smaller amounts needed for our operability. It's all about quality instead of quantity. We don't want to eat those fetuses, right? It's like really get really aware. And the first part of getting aware was it's happening, right? So there's a world of sleeping. There's a world of becoming a hero. Hero gets aware. There's a vault of knowledge, right, that was established. And with that establishment, we're more readying ourselves to, it's kind of like climax from that establishment and move from there in endless research into knowing, I know enough. I now know enough. I'm now ready to be. And this is something that no one can force upon you. It's something that's, when it's ready to occur, it shall occur. Okay, so it's everything is about quality, not just the food intake. And it's all about the quality of life by filling our own cup with creation love, which is already love for all. So you don't have to specifically heal something. It's not your job. Your job is to heal the self so you can enter this new inner world of illumination. The embracing of spiral consciousness, you know, the timeless nature of our multidimensional self, the great void to create. Without the void, we really can't create organically. It's the first rule of creation. Never forget that. So illumine creation without control or interference. I have a whole course. It's called the 13 Synthesis course. Complete embodiment of our life force, to be in charge of your vital life processes, becoming a pillar of light, a giver of life. That's the most important one. Check. Living through frequency attainment, which means we become keepers of frequency, right? Not just keepers of knowledge, but keepers of frequency. Not attached to anything happening outside of us through spirit benevolence. Because pure benevolence is not, oh shit, this is happening. Oh no, it's so bad what's happening. Oh, I feel for the people. You don't feel for the people. You feel with people. And when you're with in presence. And the presence knows that things that are like unveiling, they're simply unveiling that way because they're still experiencing that world, that particular energy and formation of that energy expression. So a part of this is the total trust in the divine plan of the grand design, not trying to achieve anything, but rather simply living as the union of spirit and form, from a human doing to a human being, from a human creator being, right? So you're becoming a human creator being. Also, living, breathing, sharing, emanating, feeling illumination. There's 3 levels of transformation. As you know, the first level of transformation, which occurs at the first world level, is awakening. You have to awake from the first world. The second one is transmutation. You have to become aware. That's the awareness energy. This is where the knowledge comes in. This is what a lot of us have been doing. And the third world is the transfiguration world of ascension. This is ascension as spirit alchemy. Ascension is the most stressful experience also for the body because it does happen when it does in the body. It's not a mental process. Okay, so to sum it up here, I have written that I've talked about a lot, if you remember, about being self-born and what does this mean. So becoming born rather than informed, right, to experience life and ourselves through life. It's like some believe the end days are here, others argue and fight by waging endless wars, and others look up to infinite prophecies to tell time and different events. However, masters of self remain centered within the self, knowing that everything will be exactly as it is, and they will always be okay where they are because of who they are. Yes. And all that I have here, which is piles and piles of information, will be a part of the Patreon content as well. So before I tell you the final stages of the changes, I want to show you something. These are actually the drawings that I made, and I wanted to first show you the drawing that is the marking of that spin-off energy that came through the solstice. So these drawings I will show you now, I don't know how many of them they are. When I started doing drawings this way with chalks, right, with, what are they called? I forgot now. Oil pastels, yeah. I started drawing this way, and it was very soft. It was not the way I used to draw before with colored pencils. It was more structured, still kind of my favorite. But when I started with this kind of medium, it felt very fluid. And one day I was asking the angels, what does this mean? And they were telling me that I'm actually drawing with the new energy. That I'm just picking up different information, just putting it in a very wavy form, and it's not as structured. So this assists with me moving into this new energy template. So I've shifted so much now that I can hardly recognize myself anymore. It's not like I can say I am who I used to be. And because my body has been going through such immense changes, because I am moving in this third world, and I feel I am, but as well as still a little bit of me left in the second world. It's just how many of percentages of our life force we have given to each world. And it's not like you're here, you're there, you're there. No, they're happening in parallels. And we can always consciously choose how much of our life force we're going to give in percentages to each of these realities. But it's the more we're feeding this new and we're tuning into this spiral consciousness, the closer we are to truly being embodied in the heart of illumination. Okay, so I'm going to show you these drawings. I'm going to give you the updates. You can find the other messages, channel messages on my download page, as well as on the Patreon content. So I do hope you're going to get that, especially the yearly message is very beautiful. Okay, so this is the one I've been telling you about. This is the spiral, right? The spin-off frequency. That was the solstice channeling. So you have Earth in a way, it's kind of repetitive. It's kind of cyclical. And you have timelines. I'm going to teach you in this. I'm going to teach in this mini course, which will be about these things and how to finish those soul contracts and how to move into this higher expanded state in the Patreon content in a mini course. This is actually about, when you're ready to finish up those timelines, you're really ready to jump into this new. And this is the spiral of life. You're actually you're co-creating a whole new reality. Because this spiral, as you can see, it spins like this, and it's again like this. It's kind of like, it's enclosed in a space. So it's a spiral, but it's been captured in a sphere. And it couldn't be what it truly is. And this spin-off, when enough light quotient, as you can see here, through the Kundalini, life force mastery cultivation is raised, there's a new tipping point. And there's an overlay of energy. It's like people who already are now moving into this realm. And this is all in the solstice channel message if you want to get that. So this is that drawing. And you can see it's almost like, it's like a reflection of this world, the world of shadow integration and learning in the world of light, world of illumination. On this side, I have them on both sides. There's a picture drawing I made of the common Vertanen, which visited us around middle of December. I'm going to show you a little faster now. This is the new Lumen Body template drawing, which I made. All of these you can see on my Instagram profile as well, in my pictures. This is the new Egg of Creation drawing. Then we have, this is the kind of the tunnel we were moving right through this entire 11 gateway year of 2018. What's on the other side? Oh, I think it's like this, the world of light. It's the soul aspects, right? And they're moving it. This is the triune nature here. 3 aspects, love, wisdom, and power. This is the feminine essence of creation, then the overlighted, or in the presence of the masculine aspects and how they co-create in the spin of their mission. Oh, this was my first one actually. Wait a minute, it's like this. I don't know, you're gonna know what this is. This is different worlds and stations. This is the Lumen realm here. This is the galactic different planes. I'm not gonna explain this now too much. It's on my Instagram profile. This is the receiving the new body template, you can see. This is the Lumen tree of life. And we have this one. Oh, I love this one. I don't have the tiles because I can see them. It's like a great divine vision, seership. This is the creation of the spiral consciousness from a higher perspective to these galactic regions that are impulsing with divine mana. See, galactic beings make galactic drawings. Sacred twin soul flames, you can see again illuminating the blood, importance of blood cultivation. This was my this was my first one, sorry. Sacred cosmic rose. Oh, I love this one. This is the unity within duality, as you can see, right? This from one world to the other world. Shadow, light existing as one. And this was channeled for one full moon, I think. It was when Venus was also, this is Venus and alignment with the moon and earth. It was in cosmic alignment and a lot of sacred fire was coming through. What's this? I forgot. Some of them I just forget. I think it was like masculine and feminine aspects within a certain lumen group. It's the cosmic butterfly. It's not my favorite though. It's a divine eye. And we have the rainbow tree. Oh, see the solar process, the sun with its rays, accompanied or assisted with the cosmic rays, sorry, and then the celestial self, the illumined body, or the light body, sorry, being receiving and then anchoring, right? How important it is to keep this intact in these levels. Oh, I forgot this one. Whatever it is, cosmic sun, I don't know all of them, what they are, I just draw them. This is the moth. This is the illumined moth. And it came through as a very sensual, sexual experience and cultivation of the orgasmic flames. And this is the mission of the galactic being, the cedar, how it works with these flames, different celestial stations, and it's like unifying all the here. It has a galactic sea awareness and channels this down into the planet, expands its wings. It's like a multi-purpose. It's not visible to the human form, but the energy work's being done, as you can see in DNA of the physicality is being shifted that way. This was on, no, this wasn't on solstice. When was this? I know it was an important day, but I can't remember now. It was very cloudy. It was one important day. Oh, it was 11/11. Ah, it was 11/11. It was the light beaming through the dark. It's like the light always beams, even when we don't see it. And we say, well, we have these skies, right? And it's also coated up with all this and that, but envisioning the light always moving through. And this was the one that surprised me the most because I made this cosmic volcano, this cosmic picture, but it was a volcano, right? And amongst the water, and it didn't make sense to me. There was these mountains and a lotus flower. It felt like some sort of anchoring. And then I see that their volcano going off in Indonesia. And I didn't know when I'm drawing this. I'm like, oh, that's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. Oh, it's the unity. It's again, the mission of the twin soul. This simply means the divine counterpart energy in harmonious alignment, completely compatible energy, cosmically, in earth sense, creating a combination of the third energy that never was before. Stronger together than apart. And of course, love, angelic love, love of the core. This it feels very much like this year's energy, like I've said. Like this. To catch the color. The heart that illuminates, the illumined heart flame. And I was showing you this because in a way, when I was doing these drawings, I was already moving into this new energy. And also every month on Patreon, when I'm guided, so far I was guided, but I do a channeled energy drawing specifically for that month, for what we're experiencing, for those who resonate. So you can see that there as well as my monthly content. But here I really want to inform you of some of the changes. So for me this year, like I said, it's a 9-year. A 9 does feel like a completion, but also for me it feels more like a hermit. Hermit is the frequency that belongs to that design, and it's like frequency of more withdrawal. So this year I was really tuning very strongly. I went to my waterfall region today, And I was just really asking, well, what's the next stage? Because I felt like some of the things are just over, they're complete. And I've been telling you, I will no longer be doing YouTube videos in the way I used to. I did like piles and piles of information, hours long videos. And so somehow it felt that that's over. Not because I'm not always, I'm not always energetically matched or, compensated for these videos in a way that people would contribute. But it's also because I feel that that seeding part has stopped. The sharing, that's the second world. By moving into the world of illumination, I really want to move more into being. And I felt when I tuned into my heart, I felt really tired after 8 years of constant nonstop work. I felt like a working ant, like a working bee, right? And I felt like I can't go on like this all the time. I will exhaust myself to death. And they were telling me that it's true because now the body needs for that entrance into the lumen state. It's quite an undertaking. And they said if I want to complete this mission, it's simply something I need to do. So it's not because I don't like to do what I do here, but because it's what's the next step. So these videos I'm giving now for the New Year's are like final videos that will be coming in this lengthy material in this way. Perhaps I will only do one monthly video with the update about the Ascension, where we are, what are some of the things coming true, themes, I don't know. But this is what I'm feeling. I want to move more into channel messages. This is what I'm thriving at the most right now. I really love that. I want to do the drawings. I want to do the content on Patreon for the people who really support the work. But it's not so much about support. It is important, of course. But for me, I really wish to work with the mirroring of what I share. And if people who don't understand that what I do comes with such great devotion and they don't appreciate that, and they're just watching because they want to be informed in some way, these people will probably not continue, to follow where I'm moving next. And I will move a lot of my work, well, most of my work to Patreon now. I will have different tiers for different levels, whether they will be monthly content that I already do, whether it will be drawings, whether it will be channel messages like audio files, whether it will be almost like mini courses that I've been doing, free courses on YouTube here, aside from the bigger, wider courses that are already always on my webpage because these are timeless materials. But these courses that will be built on what we're working on now, what's the structure that's most important at this time. So I feel that will be happening. So you can see if you're interested, the description there, what resonates with you, you can change that anytime. But I also want to say that this is for many reasons. One is my progress. I also have to evolve like everyone else. I can't do things in the same way anymore. It doesn't bring me joy. It doesn't bring me fulfillment. It's not where my mission is anymore. They're telling me I need to move more and more to the bigger emanation, and I don't know what's next, but I'm also in a transition state. And every one of us who finds eventually ourselves at this threshold of moving from one to the other, it's quite an undertaking. So I hope you will understand and you continue to support my work this way, although you don't see me on YouTube as much as you used to, because people get used to things and they take them for granted when they do. That's the funny thing. But I believe that people who are truly Ascension devotees, they will come, they will be a part of my subscription page, which is Patreon. But I also want to say something, because sometimes I notice what people are doing, and as much as I always give from the heart, I give purely, I give devotedly, I give unconditionally. I really don't like people who mistreat that, people who mistreat my trust, and people who play with these things. So I was doing some research on Patreon. I'm actually quite new there. But I was doing some research, and they actually wrote that there's sometimes people who will change their tiers, like, right, all the time. So let's say there's a certain value you to unlock a certain content, and people do that to get monthly access, but then right when it's time for payment, they will lower to the minimum amount. And when people do that constantly, these people are very suspicious because they're not genuine, and these people are kind of like not respecting the energy exchange. And it's like it's not fair to others who are holding on to what they want to support with, whatever they choose as their tier, what they want to receive. It's really just rotten, I feel, when people do that, because it's not just it's unfair, it's kind of like you're just setting up yourself for this karmic, whatever it is. It's not good, because it will eventually, everything we do this way that's unjust, it comes back at us. It's just how it is. So there's an option to remove these people. And as kind, as giving, and as freely open I am, I will remove people who do that if I will notice that, because it's not fair to my endless hours of work. And I'm always nice, and I've shared like endless hours of this just on my free terms, because I really wanted everyone to be having opportunity to expand as most as they can. But it's not up to me, as you know. It's not up to anyone. It's up to everyone's free choice. The best I can do is share as freely as I can, as guided as I am in each moment. But I also really would love to work with people who are more knowing of what Ascension is, and that it takes courage, devotion, and trust. And if I don't have trust from someone else, it's not a person who you can trust. It's not someone I want to be abusing my content in that way when others are, paying and contributing, and it's not good. So if you get deleted, that's probably the reason, because you're playing with the content and you're playing with love, and it's not really trusting. So yes, this year I will definitely rest more. I will take more time off than I ever did before. These last 8 years have tired me, and it doesn't show. The lighting is bad, but it doesn't show. And it's almost like, I have this tendency that when I do lots of work, I have a tendency, I don't know how to stop. I just am so in it. I'm so in it. And I overdo. And then when I finally fall into rest, I can't stop. I don't want to go back to do the doing again, because the body shows you how tired it is. And it's like, oh, not that again. Oh, no, no, no. So it's like, feel people who are very much in their hearts. They feel. They know how much it comes through and how much it benefits their true unveiling, their true ascension. And it's not a hokey pokey of the mind. This truly is a resonance born through illumination and grace and wisdom. And people who don't respect that, I'm sorry, I will have to say goodbye here. And I hope to see you when I do monthly messages. But all the other content, all the free courses you were seeing, all the readings I was doing as a preview, I did a lot of readings, will now be done on Patreon. Just go there, find the information, see what resonates. But starting up with this month, there will be more content there than it used to be on YouTube, so it will be like vice versa. I hope you understand. And I hope you understand that the way I will offer this content is not going to be so, I need to do this, I need to produce, I have to be all on the same day. And when this happens, it's just burden. I want to do it freely. I want to do it. Oh, this is what comes up. Oh, this is, I was always like this. Spirit calling, and then I answer, and it's a creation of love. Otherwise, it's very much a creation of doing. It's like, at the end, you realize you're your own boss, and it's no longer spirit being your boss. It's like you're in charge, and there's no room for a greater unfolding. So this is what I would like to create: a world of trust, of mutual reciprocity, of understanding, of commitment at a higher level. And if that doesn't work out by people who would benefit from that, then guess what we do? We do it alone. It's how it is. We have to be loyal and faithful to the way we believe our nature is and what we came here to do in our own way. So I hope to see you on Patreon. There will be a January update as well, but there will be a guided spirit channel message, as well as for personal choices, as well for you on Patreon, as well as a mini course that will go deeper into the spiral workings and the synthesis point and soul agreements and all of that juicy stuff. So I hope to see you there. I wish you the most beautiful and most heart illuminating year ever before. But remember, there's work. It's not going to be just all glitter and, popcorn. At times we have to create it so, but it's also constant work that meets rewards at the level of input meets the level of output. That's just how it is. It's not always how we want it to be and when we want it to be. But with devotion comes great love. And I hope you will fill your heart space with that devotion this year and beyond. I'll see you. I love you always and forever. With love, wisdom, and power. Take care. Have the most beautiful year, juicy year ever.